Want the bank named Gambit's best local financial institution for 2016? Then you want Whitney Bank, with nearly 200 locations across the Gulf South. So stop by today. Learn more at HancockWhitney.com. Member FDIC.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. Additional support comes from Wyndham Garden Lafayette.
From Social on Johnson Street in Lafayette, we're out to lunch with Professor of Finance and Director of the award-winning Birken Road Reports, Peter Ricchiuti. It's business, Acadiana style.
Hi, I'm Peter Ricchiuti. Welcome to Out to Lunch. Summer lasts a long time in this part of the world. We take advantage of it by doing stuff outside, like crawfish boils and bike rides. Meg Arcenaux is an expert on both of these summertime activities. Meg is the owner of the bike shop Hub City Cycles, as well as a pop-up crawfish boil business called Hawk's Boil Up. Meg, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Oh, thanks for having me.
When you look back on your childhood, hot summers seem to stretch on forever. One of the quick and cheap ways we cooled down as kids was eating a popsicle. Nick Villaume grew up in the 1980s and has combined the joy of popsicles with the music of the era by starting a popsicle company called Pops and Rockets. Nick's popsicles have 80s rock flavors like Sweet Child of Lime, Every Little Tea She Does, and Cran Halen. Nick, welcome to Out to Lunch.
Thank you.
Now, Meg, on the face of it, there doesn't seem to be much of a connection between owning a bike shop and having a crawfish boil business, but the fact that your father has been boiling crawfish since 1983 at the now legendary Hawk's Crawfish explains that aspect. And the fact that you've always loved bikes explains why you have a bike shop. But how you got to the bike shop is a little more mysterious. When you graduated from UL, you bounced around a little before settling on a career as a private investigator. Let's start there. How did that happen? Did you fall in love with Nancy Drew mysteries, and what did you do as a PI?
Well, when I was in college, I really wanted to be a forensic photographer. So when I graduated,
What does that mean again?
That means that's the people who go to the crime scenes and take photographs and document it and kind of put the pieces together through photographs.
Okay.
You know, because when you're going through, you can't have the crime scene forever. You have to go back to the photographs and look at it.
People don't want the body
Right.
staying in their living room.
Right, that would just be stinky.
So they're right.
So I was really fascinated by that, and I was always had a passion for photography. So and I've always had a passion for criminal justice and forensics. So I put the two together, and that's what I was going to do. So I moved to North Carolina. Then I took a class. I took a conference actually, and got certified as a medical legal death investigator.
Oh.
Yeah. It was a big to do, and so I did that.
And Louisiana's like one of the only places you could actually run for coroner.
Right.
So that's
my uncle so happens to be the coroner of St. Landry Parish. I had him as a kind of a guidance, and he helped me out. And so when I moved to North Carolina though, and I lived in Asheville, and there was no crime there. Everybody was so happy. It's just too beautiful. So.
But not good if your gig is taking pictures of
Correct,
murders.
Right.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I looked around. I ended up working at a grocery store, an organic grocery store, and that was fun. And it was, it was so crazy. Everyone who worked there all had like a degree. All had a college degree.
I know.
But then the people who rolled sushi had a graduate, had a,
the cab drivers, right?
So right. It was like.
Now I like bikes. You like bikes, but the difference is you apparently are kind of mechanically oriented.
Sure.
Since you're a kid, you're always the person taking it apart.
Oh, most definitely. I love the way things work. I like, I love taking apart and putting back together things when I was a kid. So I would take the phone apart and put it back together. Then my dad showed me his bicycle, Blackie. He had this old, I think it was a Montgomery Ward or Sears bike, Blackie, okay? And so it's a Western Flyer. That's what it was. It was Western Flyer. And so I was really like, we got out the shed, and he was like, let's put this back together, and that was it. That's where the passion began.
Oh my God.
And then every year I had to get a bike, and every year I had to get the best bike, and I had to upgrade it to this and do that.
See, I can take them apart, but it was that other part that seems so daunting, really.
Right.
I'm not at all mechanically inclined. I'm like, my wife won't let me do anything where I have to hold my hands over my head for longer than 30 seconds.
On the other hand, Nick, you're making popsicles sounds like a fun little activity you could do for the neighborhood kids on the weekend. You could put up a sun umbrella and sell them on your front lawn with a plastic table and a cooler. But your company, Pops and Rockets, is far from that. Now, just a few years ago, you started out making 200 popsicles a day. Now you're making 1,000 a day, and you have the capability to step that up to 10,000. And by the way, it's all in Lake Charles. I'm assuming there is not some sort of popsicle consumption mania in Lake Charles, and Pops and Rockets are sold elsewhere. Where do you ship these 10,000 popsicles a day to, and how do you get your popsicles to be so popular?
Those numbers are a little off.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We're actually, our production capacity is 10,000 a day.
Okay.
But we're nowhere near that right now.
Okay,
So
all right,
we're moving in that direction. But right
If
now,
I brought you back in 3 years, these numbers
we're
would
at about
be right.
1,000 a day.
Wow,
Like
wow.
We can, yeah,
That's still a lot of popsicles.
That's still a lot of popsicles.
And so we're expanding across the state into the Lafayette market.
How do you get you get into grocery stores? Is that
Yeah, mostly retail shops right now. So we'll go into like a small boutique or something, or a specialty food store, and put in a little novelty freezer.
Oh,
And,
so that's my first question. So
yeah.
you're not fighting for freezer space. You're
Not yet.
BYOF. Bring your own
Right,
freezer.
we're getting there on freezer space. We're about to start trying to bust into some of the larger grocery chains, Whole Foods, Rouse's, Kroger. And when we get in there, then we will be fighting for shelf space. But right now, we just have our own freezer, and it's very noticeable and cool. It looks kind of like a hot pink jam box. So
Getting back to your music theme.
yeah,
That is,
everything's back to the music.
How many flavors do you have?
We've done about 50 different flavors.
Come up with
Yeah.
enough songs?
Oh yeah, we never run out of songs.
There's
so yeah. I was actually coming up with one on my way over, on the drive here from a Jesus and Mary chain song from the 80s called Cherry Flame 2. A guy gave me some hot sauce, and we're gonna make a spicy cherry with
yum.
dark cherry and Dr. Pepper and
Sweet
a little
hot.
bit of habanero hot sauce.
I hope you brought a cooler with you. This is pretty. Now, you got over from Lake Charles, which is frankly become a boom town with all the LNG, those jobs
Yeah.
at Sasol. Is that helping your business?
Yeah, it is. Actually, we opened up our retail shop 2 weeks ago.
Now that's
and
a whole different
It's a
way
whole
to
other
go.
thing for us, yeah. And it's the only reason we're doing retail is because we built out a kitchen, and we're thinking, well, what the heck? I mean, people in Lake Charles are always asking us where they can get them outside of stores and expanded flavors. So we opened the shop, and we've been having trouble keeping up with just our local sales, much less our distribution over the last 2 weeks. So I'm adjusting to that now.
Is it heat oriented? Is that what drives it?
I think so. It's starting to get warm.
Now, Meg, you can buy a bicycle in a lot of different places in town. Like at the low end, you can even buy it at Walmart or
Oh,
such.
yeah, we don't like those places.
But what are you doing to differentiate yourself?
Well, that's what when I came with my business plan, I wanted to be something different because there's 4 other bike shops. We're one of 4 bike shops in town. And so I went to, I shopped at all these places, and what inspired me the most was the old Johnson's bicycle shop on Simcoe. So it wasn't huge, it just had everything you need. It was your neighborhood local bicycle shop that people could feel comfortable in, from an amateur to a professional, and we just wanted to have that feel. And when you come in, the first thing you're going to see is my dog Olive greeting you at the door. And then I have 2 couches there on our stage that we actually have music sometimes. And so,
Because it's Lafayette.
It's Lafayette,
Yeah.
And we just wanted to have that really nice feel, and then we can talk to you about bicycles, and we want people to ride. That is our goal, is to get as many people on bikes as possible.
Is your market that wide? In other words, do you have that person that's looking for their kind of an inexpensive first bike, and then you've got those people that are, bicycle people are like a cult, right? They go
Sure.
for these rides together and races.
Yeah, and then they just start really getting into it, and they're getting a new bike every 6 months.
Yeah.
They have to get the brand new crank or the new pedals that just came out or whatever. They just have to have the next best thing.
I don't know if this would ever happen, but you get somebody that's such a bike nut, they've got an idea of how they could make their own bike. Has that ever happened?
Yes, we do that a lot. We do customized bikes.
Whoa.
And so we even have frames.
Somebody just brings in
Another
napkins
thing-
with marks?
Like, this is what we want to do. No, what we do, we talk to them and they have an idea. And another thing we do is use bicycles, and no one else is doing that. So
I love that.
we like to buy bicycles from the community that people are just going to throw away, and then we'll take that bike, we'll take it all apart. So here it goes back to me taking bikes apart. We're going to take them all apart, And then we put them back together. We re-grease them, we put new components on them, and then we resell them back to the community.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super
That
cool.
is that's a great idea.
I love
They,
that aspect. You know, one thing about biking that always gets me is that they brought in city of Portland, Oregon, brought in an expert from Copenhagen to figure out how they could increase bike trips.
Right, because that's Mecca. I
Yeah,
mean, Portland.
and,
yeah, that's,
and the dude said, you know, instead of thinking about a bike like as an elitist activity, think about it like your vacuum cleaner. Like when you vacuum your house, you don't like put on special clothing or join a club. You're just using the vacuum cleaner. And so the used bike aspect is really cool because I admit I have 4 bicycles.
There you go.
You have to have your road bike, your mountain bike, and
but
then
Nick,
your
the real
cruiser.
point, do you have one of those tight spandex outfits?
Oh, I do.
Wow,
Oh yeah,
geez,
man. I look good in it too with my big beer gut. But like my favorite bike is my old cruiser bike that I
Yeah.
just ride around town. It's utilitarian. It's got a big basket, and so I love that idea of used bike refurbs.
That is great. Now, Nick, you make these the popsicles out of is it downtown Lake Charles?
Yep.
It's a bank.
Well, we're in an old building that was like an old parking garage.
Oh.
And my landlord has taken these old properties in Lake Charles and built them out to be, you know, really cool spaces. So yeah, we're in an old parking garage that's attached to an old bank building in downtown.
Wow, now that's and frankly, Lake Charles, I mean, the downtown kind of disappeared. Is it coming back?
It is. We have more parking lot than we have building, but people are investing. So people are coming in and they're starting to build stuff and they're starting to open up and reuse old spaces. So yeah, it's coming back.
Well, Meg, your second part of your business, I guess you're a conglomerate, actually, is what you are. They
We like to call that entrepreneur.
Oh, that's what it is.
That's
yeah,
what
they,
you call that.
It's
Got that
it's a
entrepreneur
French word.
spirit.
It's
Correct.
You got these 2 businesses. Is that first of all? Your season is what kind of for the crawfish is?
My season is probably February through May.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
It pretty much depends on when my dad's getting ready to like start purging crawfish. And I started earlier than him this year, and I finished a week later than him. So he had to keep those purge and takes going.
Not that your dad's business is simpler, but yours is pretty complicated because you've got to get the stuff there.
I pretty much on Wednesdays is my Wednesdays and Thursdays of the last 4 months have been crazy. So it pretty much starts, I wake up, I go to the bike shop, I get that going. I leave there around 12:30, 1 o'clock. I go and get my vegetables at Kevin Guidry's. Then I go and drive all the way to Roberts Cove. Well, it's north of Roberts Cove. They don't have a place. They don't have a name for it, you know. We don't have stop signs or anything. No, I'm joking. We have 1 stop sign. So we get there, and then my dad and I talk about what's going on. I make my dip, my crawfish dip. And then he's like, well, how many you want today? And that's always the big question. And I'm like, I don't know, Dad. I could probably do 12 sacks, you know. And then it goes from there, and then we load them up, and I haul my butt back over to wherever I'm balling, which this year I've been blessed to have been doing it at the Warehouse 535 and doing it over there. We did
That's
that.
kind of an incubator, or
It was something that me and Mark Falgu, the owner of Warehouse 535, he called me up and he was like, what do you think about bowling crawfish twice a week? I was like, I think that's a great idea. Then we started a music series on Thursdays called Grooves on the Green, and that was all. It was a free music series outside, family oriented. And people came.
You're listening to Out to Lunch. I'm Peter Ricchiuti. I'm talking with Meg Arcenaux, owner of Hub City Cycles and Crawfish Pop-Up Hawks Boil Up, and Nick Villaume, owner of Lake Charles Popsicle Company, Pops and Rockets. Now, Nick, you're in the car and you're probably listening to 80s music, but what made you think of making popsicles? How did the connection?
Well, the idea actually came from my partner. Making popsicles came from me. I did a lot of mission trips in Mexico. And paletas is like a really very common thing in Latin America and Central America. Paletas is a Mexican popsicle or Hispanic popsicle.
All right.
And they make them with traditional flavors like horchata, rice milk, you know, and tamarind and things like that. And so then I discovered a place in Nashville where my cousin was going to college that was called Las Paletas, and they had gourmet popsicles. So they started doing things like chocolate sea salt and different flavors, and went back to Atlanta where I was living at the time and was really excited
You're an
about
internet
it.
guy, right?
Yeah, and I was really excited about it, but I was running a digital marketing agency that I started, and so I didn't really have time to do that. And then another fella started doing it, and he just like blew up. So when I moved back to Lake Charles in 2013, I had the idea, and I mentioned it to my old buddy that I grew up with, and And he and I spent a lot of time in the 80s going to see bands and stuff. And he wasn't really keen on the idea because he's a teacher, he teaches art, and he's, got young kids. And he said, well, I don't know, popsicles, it sounds awesome, but I just don't know that I have the time for it. And then one day he was mowing his lawn and he was listening to Duran Duran's Rio on his headphones. And he got to thinking, the line is cherry ice cream smile. And he thought we should make a popsicle that is like an almond cherry banana pop named Durana Durana. And so he sent me a text message, and I think I was over in Austin with my wife hanging out for the weekend. And I said, that's a great idea. Why don't we name them all after 80s songs? And at that point he said, okay, I'm in. He's like, I'll do that. So then the ideas just started coming.
If 2 days from now there's a crawfish popsicle, we'll know that you guys just combined.
Already started thinking about that.
Bikes are really odd in that there's a huge price range, right? I mean, what is that range?
Oh, see, we start selling bikes. I guess some of our used bikes, like we have a kid's bike in there right now. I'm trying to sell it for $100. So like a kid's bike that's used about $100, and we even had a used bike recently that we were trying to sell for $1,300, but it was one of those tri-carbon bikes.
Right, yeah.
But that's like a $5,000 bike, but now it's used. So, and I guess our new bikes range from $250 to like $1,500. We keep it down. We're not really a high-end shop.
So there is a higher end.
Oh, there's $8,000-$10,000 bikes,
Wow.
Peter. It's crazy. I mean, it's like cars, like used cars. Or new cars, I
And
don't
those
know.
people do nothing but talk about their bikes and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the cult. That's those cults we were talking
Well, you
about.
know what I liked about your business really was the idea, Meg, that you could trade in your bike, you could get a pre-owned bike, a new bike, you could even put your own bike on consignment.
Yeah, we do consignments. I mean, we are just trying, like, if you're ready to move on from your bicycle, say you've outgrown it, that's okay. We always tell people, they're like, well, what if I don't like this bike in a year? I'm like, bring it over, we'll put it on consignment for you, whatever it sells for. We're not going to take a commission from it. You put that towards your new bike with us. So you're not losing any money on it, and that's what we're trying to do. It's all about getting people to ride bicycles.
And that's good for you.
Yes, and in this economy right now, the economy is down here in Lafayette.
Let's
It's
talk
terrible.
let me just ask about that. We talked about Lake Charles being kind of a boom town now, and they're hot and working hard and eating more popsicles. What about the bicycle side in Lafayette? The economy's been, having a tough time with the oil industry for about 3 years. You seen anything?
Look, everyone was talking about it last year, okay? Like how everyone's businesses were down last year. I didn't see a really decline in my business last year. And in the beginning of this year, it's been booming. But then it's summertime, it's the busy season, you should be busy. And I'm like, what's going on? The business has slowed down a little bit, but when I talk to my distributors and whatever, they're like, it's down across the nation.
Oh, okay, that's not a Lafayette thing,
So it's not, I don't think it's the economy. I mean, it definitely has to be a little piece of that is that people are still looking for work. I mean, I get people coming in the shop all the time looking for jobs.
Right.
It's definitely I think another thing is that there's so much of a flood in the market. We were talking about the lower end shops and stuff like that. Also, we call them like the department store bicycles, like Walmart, Academy, all those places. That really hurts business, or the internet. And what that is, people see these low prices and they think, oh, I can get this bike. It's awesome. It looks just like the one I saw at the bike shop, but it's $100 less or it's $200 less. What they don't understand is if you don't put together that bicycle correctly, then you have a bicycle that's not working correctly. And so then that causes problems. And we see that every day. We're always fixing other people's problems.
That's like the,
but we
the
love
web
that.
development business.
Yeah, we love that though. We love working on bicycles. That's a whole other aspect of our business is the repair side.
Yeah.
And Nick, the other side is with you. How do you compare what you're making to what I would find at the grocery store currently? Big national brands.
Oh gosh. Well, it's interesting because there's a ton of competition in the popsicle business. I recently joined a Facebook group called Artisan Ice Pop Makers. And there are
Oh my God!
How many artisan popsicle makers are there?
have no idea.
How many members are there on Facebook? I would guess between like 2,000 to 5,000.
Yeah, about that. Yeah. So 2,000 to 5,000 people globally, and they're all over the world. But that most people, so in the grocery store, you're getting into like what's designed to be really low cost and really high volume. So, you've got your traditional pops, which are basically just high fructose corn syrup with artificial flavoring and coloring. And then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is the really healthy popsicles that are low calorie, vegan, all natural. I'd say we fall somewhere in the middle. like our people always ask us, are we all natural? Are you vegan? Are you, low calorie? And we're like, we're none
No,
of
we
those.
continue to sell the meat popsicle.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that would
Well,
be
we
really
do.
weird.
We have a bacon maple popsicle.
Oh,
actually.
okay, all right. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah, we
so
started-
we
was
can
something,
so this crawfish dip or
Yeah,
whatever.
I'm telling you,
could
I've
be
already
something.
been thinking. I'm actually making
I'm
ice
right here
cream
with
now, and
you.
I've got an idea for a crab boil ice cream.
That's what I was thinking. It's like
yeah.
not actually the crawfish in the popsicle per se, but maybe like the crab boil or the boil.
Well, one of the fellows at
Maybe the crawfish fat. I don't know.
one of the guys at Dat Dog in New Orleans gave
Yeah.
me that idea. He said, you need to make a vanilla popsicle with crawfish tails, spicy
Yum.
crawfish tails in it. And everybody in the office was like, oh, is he talking about that again? And and I said, well, the one thing about that ice cream is you would certainly figure out who the stoners in the room were.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's something
But-
you need to do every once in a while.
But getting
so
back to our pops, what we like to say is that we can pronounce pretty much everything we put into our popsicles.
That's great.
All right, that's a good way to put. Now you're moving over to slowly. You're making ice cream now.
Yes, I started making ice cream in-house only. I'm not distributing ice cream yet, but it's so much fun making ice cream. And I'm using I get my milk from this farmer north of Lake Charles. He's a Mennonite farmer who's all pastured, no hormones, and he
Get
uses
the sticks from an Amish group. You're
Yeah,
really
and
amazing.
he does. Yeah, I've got kids in the back carving the sticks. But,
Hey, speaking of kids, you have 3 children
I
and
do.
a grandchild on the way.
Yeah.
Would there anything be
Wait, you have a
cool-
grandchild on the way?
I do in about 2 weeks.
Does he look way too young?
You look way too young.
We're from Louisiana, man. We
You guys
started
started
young.
early. Yeah.
But can you imagine anything cooler than your grandfather makes popsicles?
Right?
It's one thing to be the drilling superintendent, but to be the
Oh yeah, and my daughter's actually going to be running the shop for me, so she'll have my grandson in there during the
Oh.
day eating
That's
popsicles.
That's
cool.
one of the
and
best ways to find him.
We'll
He's like
raise
your
him on
taste.
Galaga.
Yeah. He's your taste tester.
Now you've got cyclicality or seasonality in your business. Obviously, the summer's better than winter. You've got the darn thing covered though, Meg, don't
I'm
you?
pretty busy.
Because you've got the crawfish when the popsicles aren't. Sorry, you got the crawfish when the bikes are a little slower. Did you think this all through?
No, this was all. I could say it's my master plan, but literally from January through May, we've been slammed. In both businesses, it's been crazy. So I call it a blessing. I'm lucky to have my dad, who's continuing my grandfather's legacy, and then I'm going to continue this. I'm a 3rd generation boiler there, and then I just love bicycles, so I'm able to, and that's a labor of love. The season does kind of overlap though, so we are lucky enough to have that.
And now you got to come up with something, Nick. That's your problem. It's something during the winter. You get like Christmas trees or something like that. Then
I think the ice cream is going to be your.
Actually,
I think that's gonna be the answer.
statistically,
And I eat
frozen
popsicles. I go to
dessert
get-
sales are up in the winter.
Really.
Now we don't. We do events, so event sales are not good in the winter. We don't have events in the winter, so that's pretty slow. But the in-store sales are actually pretty steady. They don't really change around the year. So,
And Nick, what about the shipping and the footprint? What can you imagine going forward? If I talk to you 3 years from now.
Well, we're definitely going to the next level. So we're going to start trying to get some wider distribution going. Right now, I'm self-distributing. So I went and bought a little truck that's got a little freezer unit on the
You
back.
get the
and
music playing like.
Oh
the
yeah,
little- okay,
we
that's
crank it
perfect.
up. But
That's where he gets inspired.
it's got a little freezer on the back, so I can transport about 3,500 to 4,000 units at a time in the truck, and I can go. It'll maintain a acceptable temperature range for like 12 hours. So I've got about a 5-hour distribution range from Lake Charles, and then beyond that, I'm going to have to hook up with like a frozen food distributor.
That would get you to
Austin.
Beaumont, Houston, Austin.
Austin,
yeah,
Houston, New Orleans, all the way over to almost like Gulfport even. Yeah.
Wow. Now, if you had an actual ice cream truck,
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, and everybody would play kind of sappy songs, but you'd play like Helter Skelter. Or
I've
something.
actually got one. I bought a 1982 Chevy van from a bail bondsman in Houston that has the light bars on top, and it's got the side exhaust pipes with the big fat rims, big fat tires on it, and we spray painted it with all of our stuff on it, and
I
we
used
put
to
a
go to. I
chest
used to work in
freezer.
construction, and the guy who used to pick me up in the morning drove a van just like that.
Yeah.
It was carpet all over, even
Dude,
on the
ours has
ceiling.
carpet in the back
even
as
on
well.
the ceiling. And like after you get off of work, the last thing you want to do is like sweaty, get on that nasty carpet, and just
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah. But You know, if I had a popsicle, it would have made it a lot better.
But that made you go out and start 2 businesses of your own to get out of the van.
Yeah,
There's
I didn't want to do construction. I figured that out young.
When the warmer weather arrives around here in the form of relentless summer heat, it's a mixed blessing. On the one hand, we can always escape into the AC someplace if we really have to. On the other hand, we have found plenty of ways to make the most of the outdoors and to adapt. Meg and Nick, both of your businesses are part of both the celebrations of summer and the adaptations to our sultry conditions, from cooling off with popsicles to biking around. It's been great to meet you both, and I look forward to keeping up with you over the summer and beyond. Thank you both for taking the time to join me on Out to Lunch.
Thank you, man.
Certainly,
It's been great.
Yeah.
My guests on Out to Lunch today have been Meg Arcenaux, owner of Lafayette's Hub City Cycles and Hawks Boil Up, and Nick Villaume, the co-owner of Pops and Rockets in Lake Charles. You can find out more about Nick's Popsicles and Meg's Bicycles and Crawfish by following the links on our websites, krvs.org and itsacadiana.com. Today's show is recorded live over lunch at Social Southern Table and Bar in Lafayette. Social is open 6 days a week for lunch and dinner, with brunch on Sundays. The producer of our show is Grant Morris, and our researcher is Ann Christian. Our theme song, Encore Monsieur Nice Guy, is written by Mitch Foreman and performed by Mitch Foreman and Andre Michaud. Our Acadiana business consultants are Pete Prados from Innovate Acadiana, Zach Barker from The Opportunity Machine, and Dr. Blake Escaday. If you want to know what we all look like, you can find photos from this show on our website and Facebook page. The photos were taken today by Gwen Aucoin. You can get the show as a podcast. You can listen to past shows. You can keep up with us on all kinds of social media by going to our websites, itsacadiana.com and krvs.org. Support for Out to Lunch Acadiana comes from Wyndham Garden Lafayette, located off Pinhook near Calise Saloon. Wyndham Garden Lafayette is pet and family friendly with free parking, free Wi-Fi, and meeting and event spaces for weddings, reunions, and all occasions. Out to Lunch is a production of INO Broadcasting for itsacadiana.com and KRVS 88.7 FM. I'm Peter Ricchiuti. Thanks for joining me. I look forward to meeting you again next week around the lunch table for more business, Acadiana style, on Out to Lunch.
Major support for Out to Lunch is provided by the law firm of Jones Walker, established in 1937 with over 375 attorneys in offices throughout the U.S., providing a comprehensive range of services to a local, national, and international client base. JonesWalker.com. Additional support comes from Wyndham Garden Lafayette.
Want the bank named Gambit's best local financial institution for 2016? Then you want Whitney Bank, with nearly 200 locations across the Gulf South. So stop by today. Learn more at HancockWhitney.com. Member FDIC.